All right, welcome to this episode of Technically Short. This is part 2 of the Perfectly Imperfect series. And just like last episode, last week, we had a guest. And this week, we have Josh Balogh.
What's going on, guys? What an honor to be on Technically. Thank you for having me on, guys.
This is going to be an amazing episode. You guys are going to be so excited, and I'm glad that he's here.
Yeah. It's, so the way we typically like to, whenever we have guests on, especially we've only ever had guests on for the first time, but we typically like to start with some exaltation.
Okay, that's a big word. I don't know what that means.
Exalting, like giving some things that lift up, and how we perceive you, how we perceive the person, you to be.
Oh, that's so kind.
Yeah.
So words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation.
Okay. Yeah. You guys are amazing. Treat me like a guest here. My goodness.
But yeah, so the way I do it is I just think of like 3 words that pop in my head first.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I think of whoever we're having, and with you, the first word that popped in was welcoming, and then it was high energy and leader.
Wow.
So welcoming high energy leader is what popped in my head whenever I think Josh.
Thank you, Thomas. Wow.
For when I think about Josh, I think of a servant leader. I think loving, very loving, funny, athletic, just all around a good person.
God, shucks, guys. You guys are, wow. I'm not expecting this.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Oh man, you're a good guy.
Oh, thank you. I try my best, you know?
So as we get in, this is a series on excellence. Mm-hmm. But before we dive into that, so for the people who may not know you that well, why don't you give a quick 30 to 60 second intro?
30, 60 second intro. Okay. Well, like they said, my name is Josh. I don't know how to really describe myself right now. Within the church, I oversee our middle school ministry, junior high, part of Inspire Collective, shout out IC. I'm 22 years old. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe myself. I just like doing a whole bunch of things. Like, I have my own podcast. Yeah. I just love hanging out with people. Love being in the house of the Lord.
What's
anytime.
The name?
Shout out who needs a name. Shout out who needs a name. You know, PB&J. If you know, you know. But yeah. I mean, you guys. I mean, I'm always at the church with you guys doing stuff. Yeah, I like working out. Love food. Fun fact, I'm colorblind. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I heard about that once.
Yeah, it's a rumor, but the rumor's true. I'm colorblind, believe it or not. Yeah, I think we'll call that 60 seconds.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And yeah, that's a fun fact. Did not know, but yeah.
Red, green, baby.
So as we move into the topic of excellence, this is a vague, open-ended question, and it's meant to be. Okay. But from your own perception, what is excellence?
Ooh, that is so vague and broad and open-ended. But I love it because that leaves so much room for interpretation.
Yep.
So to me, excellence is... So in order to have excellence, you need to have some sort of... I don't want to say standard, but you need to have a goal. Mm-hmm. Because excellence is a sense of achieving something. Yeah. In kind of not the absolutely best way possible, but in an extremely good way, right? And I've came a long way from having a performance mindset. Yeah. And so having that switch, but still striving for excellence, has been kind of difficult to navigate. But to me, excellence is doing something that I set out to do to my best ability, giving it my all, making sure I do it with a loving heart, make sure I use wisdom, I use all my knowledge, and just giving it my best ability, not saying, oh, well, I did X amount and I needed 5 more, and it's that wasn't excellent, but if I give it my all and I try my best and I do it with the love of Jesus, that's excellence to me.
That's good. Yeah, it's even if you fail.
Even if I fail, there's always a lesson in the failure.
Yeah.
Honestly, how do you feel that you bring excellence to your podcast?
Oh, whoa. I feel like I would say me and also Brandon, because we come at it in a similar way. We're extremely authentic. Our whole like shtick is real guys, real life, real convos, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously we're gonna talk about different things. We have guests on or like whatever, right? But what we are providing to the people who listen is a genuine and authentic conversation about whatever the Lord puts on our heart. Mm-hmm. And in that sense, excellence would be doing my best to prepare, whether it's mentally, spiritually, physically, right? Doing my best to set up the podcast, like technically wise, right? Mm-hmm. With all that we talked about it a little bit before we got started here, with all the different mics and the cameras and the software. And then just like even during kind of making sure to like even like Brandon will be talking, I'll be like, okay, like I'm hearing it and I want to like have a good conversation, but at the same time, how can I make this the most intriguing conversation? How can I make this conversation what sparks in my head that can really just like send this conversation into the next level, while still keeping it at that genuine and authentic level. Mm-hmm. So that's how I try to keep the podcast excellent.
That's really good. And going off that same vein of the podcast, I just honestly, it was this morning, I'll be honest. I listened to episode 21, the refining process.
It came out yesterday, so you're ahead of most people.
And I was going through and I wanted to pick an episode, but I saw that title, I was like, that is like a perfect fit. Mm-hmm. So let me find. So you mentioned that you're going through a refining process in that episode. Yeah. So got a couple questions based off of that, but first,
okay.
Can you give a brief summary of what this process is?
Yes, I can. Absolutely. Fun fact, I actually had the title of a name that was a lot longer. Yeah. It was supposed to be, everyone talks about refining, but what about scraping? And I was like, fire title, but way too long. Yeah. So I was like, we'll just keep it the refining process. Yeah. But for those of you who don't know, what the refining process is basically this process that different things go through that is under immense fire, heat, and pressure. Yeah. And what it does, it brings all the impurities to the top and makes them all seen and visible, so then that they can be scraped off and be kind of made into this more solid and kind of this like beautiful state of what was before, like covered in dirt, covered in things that didn't belong there. And so kind of pivoting, because I said this on our podcast too, it's like, okay, we're not gold bars. Yeah. So like, what does that mean for us, right? So the refining process for us is when God puts us through different circumstances, puts us through different experiences, through different trials that put us under pressure that may seem a little harsh, that may seem, you may think, okay, why am I going through this? This is such a difficult time. I feel pressured. I don't feel pressured to do something. I feel like everything in me is being pushed to its limit. What is going on, right? And in those moments, the things that aren't inherently, that God didn't create you with, like say insecurities, say different things, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's just like, it could just be something you're thinking about that's just not the correct way, right? And so during those times, God will put you through those trials and those things will rise to the top. They're like easily seen, right? Because if you're under immense pressure and you have a patience problem and you're under pressure, boy, are you going to be really frustrated because you're going to be extremely impatient, right? So during these processes, those sort of things rise to the top. They're easily seen. And then it's up to us to respond and take action on how can we scrape those things off of us.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I think it's during those that refining processes that we go through multiple throughout life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's where we learn. And if we are striving for excellence, that's where that's a lot of the times, those instances where we learn more about what it means for us to be excellent. Mm-hmm. Because we're, like you said, removing the things that aren't really, there may be of our flesh, but they're not of what we were created, who we were created to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But sorry, I lost my place.
You're good. The refining process is so interesting to me. Like I geek out about it all the time because it's so cool. Because even like the stuff that is on, and I keep bringing it back to gold because it's such a cool analogy. When gold is like getting refined, the things that are on it aren't inherently bad. Yeah. Right? Some of the things that we have aren't inherently bad. It's just things that are holding back the true beauty that God creates for. Yeah. So it's like in those things, and I think what you said about excellence, that's really good too. Because it's like, okay, maybe I don't need to, like, what do I need to scrape off? What do I need to scrape off? Like, I need to scrape. It's like, good heart behind, pump the brakes a little bit because you don't have to, life shouldn't be about fixing yourself. Right. Yeah. It should be about enjoying it. And though we should try to be the best self we can, I think excellence comes in that way between a healthy balance of living life as the person we created to be, but at the same time, the person we created to be maybe isn't the person we are right now. So how do we get there?
Wow.
Really good.
I think, you know something?
I know. I'm currently going through the refining process myself. Yeah. And I think it's really crazy. I used this analogy on the last episode. Did you guys all hear about? But I believe sometimes God will have us put even like you said, good things onto the altar to be sacrificed. Yeah. And the analogy I would like to use is God gave me this vision a couple days ago, and it was like my pastor dream, and it was like a fruit, right? And then he just crushed it. Oh. And then it came into this little seed. And then I was all sad because I was like, oh yeah. And then but it's gone. Right. And then he let me know that okay, I'm gonna plant this seed. And instead of my little fruit that I was so excited for, that it's gonna turn into a tree. Wow. You know what I mean? So and now that's way bigger than what I thought it would be. But it takes me giving it up, right? Yeah. So I love the refining process. Yes. I mean, I don't enjoy it while I'm in it because I think it's honestly the worst experience. It sucks. We can be honest. But I think that's what God is taking us is He has put all our things that we hold more than Him and make it an idol and destroying it. Yeah. And then restarting it. Yeah. And then when it's finished and it's nurtured and how God wants to do it, it becomes bigger than what we ever expected.
Yeah. It's it's not a bad thing that you want to be a pastor. Yeah. But if that ever kind of starts to get up with God, it's okay, no. But it's also so beautiful because, I don't know if I've said this before on an episode or not, but you can't be in love with the fruit, you should be in love with the root. Right? Wow, because, and when you said that, it's the fruit is good. Yeah. Obviously, we love the fruit. I mean, it's something we're supposed to eat, right? But that's not the thing we should be in love with. We should be in love with the thing that provides the fruit, right? Yeah. So I think that's such a cool vision that God gave you. Because I can just imagine him crushing it, and then when he crushed it, just all the seeds fall down, and then it just makes this trees. Oh, that's so cool, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when I first I'm in my head, I was like, God, why no?
What are you doing? Asking God, what are you doing? No, what do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to eat that. If only you knew, I'd plant you a whole tree. But that one was good,
dude. Oh man. So I just me myself I'm going I've gone through and it's hard to know for me am I still in it? Am I not? Yeah. And but I know I can specifically say when the refining season started for me was whenever I really started realizing I wasn't able to use my arms as best as I used to be able to. Yeah. And there was a moment where I kept trying to do things on my own. And that's where that was me and to my core is always trying if no one else is going to do it right, so do it yourself. And and then as I started looking more into how do I become a more serious leader, how do I become a better leader, how do I become a better version of myself, things kept coming up where I actually physically can't do this thing anymore and I need to ask for help. And that's God he physically, he was pretty much I think I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but my friend David Callahan, I just asked him hey man, I was supposed to serve this Sunday on production and you mentioned once that you might be interested. Can you help out tomorrow? And he was sure. Yeah. It's and that was the first time I asked somebody for help with production. Yeah. With that, and that's how he got involved. And and I started realizing, like, for me, the thing that God needed to refine and scrape off of me was my own self-reliance.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that one a lot. Especially that asking for help. It's like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll figure it out.
Right.
It's like, I don't need to bring someone else into this because they probably have so much stuff going on.
Yep.
And all these things. And it's like, I don't need that. Like, why would I even bother bringing someone into this and teaching them something and doing something good for them? It like feels in the moment, you're like, no, I can do this on my own. But like, I bet afterwards you're like, this felt really good.
Yeah.
Because asking for help isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah. The great thing that came out of that was it taught me that I actually really like to guide others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at that.
It's like to show that I really like to guide others and like I'm like actually not bad at it.
Yeah.
And like, especially when it comes to something that like in production or like stuff, and stuff I really enjoy, I'm like, let me help others that want to enjoy it too.
Yeah.
And like, why keep all that for myself?
That's good.
But based off of, I had it highlighted.
Highlighted section. Get your notes out. Get your pens clicking, guys. Take notes.
Note takers are history makers.
Come on now, somebody.
Shout out to my mentor.
In that same episode, in the refining process, you talked about how you can go left. You can stay on your own path, or you can go right and pivot and be and be bold and courageous. That's how I wrote it.
Yeah.
To be patient. So for our listeners, what does that really mean?
So I think this is when I talked about it on our episode.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily connecting it to the refining process, but it 100% does connect. So the way I was relating it in our episode, I was talking about how when you ask God for something more intangible, not like when you ask him for strength, it would be, or not would be, you can, but like asking for strength, wisdom, like knowledge, boldness, all these things, he doesn't inherently just give you those, right? Yeah. What he's going to do is he's going to put you in an opportunity. He's going to put you in an experience through a trial that's going to give you the option to act differently. And this is where you have you can turn left or you can turn right. And I think with the refining process, it's the same thing. Because when we're getting refined, we're before those things are like they're there for a reason. So we haven't done anything differently, right? So when they come to the top, when they're noticed, when they're seen, we can either, like, and I don't know if I said A or left, but whatever. Option one, you can act the same.
Yeah.
Right? You can let it go. You can let it just, like, sit there and just act the normal way and not change anything. Or go the other way. You can go right. You can take the option B and you can act differently. And you can choose to step out and say, okay, like, this is an opportunity that I've prayed about. And I know inherently I don't have this trait that I asked him, or I don't have this trait, but I know God does. And God is within me and God is my strength. So with God, I can get through this and he gets all the glory and it's through his power, not mine, through his strength and not mine. And that whole pivot it's the scraping, right? Do you choose to scrape or you just choose to let it sit there? Right.
That's good. And this is something that like, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying on this, on the right, in the same vein, but my thoughts went to the conversation we were having with Michaela yesterday, or I guess for you guys it was last week. And we talked a lot about like striving versus seeking.
Oh yeah.
Because she was like, okay, I was using. She was like, because she said like the word striving can be taken in essentially a misopportune way. A way that people essentially burn themselves out because they're striving so much. Yeah. And she's like, instead you're seeking for God, and instead you're seeking for God and seeking your calling out. Yeah. And so like with you, like when do you initially think of the word, like you used it, like striving for excellence. So like what we kind of already talked about excellence and like this, we already talked about excellence and what it is. Yeah. And through the refining process, we've talked about how like the refining process kind of refines us and makes us into a better version of ourselves. And it also helps us become also helps us become more, not more excellent, but like helps us be able to have access to more of the things that, I'm losing myself.
Yeah, so it's not like we gain all these things. It's like initially, like when we were first created, we have access to all these things.
Yeah.
But because of things done and all these things, we have all this stuff on us. So it's not like when we get refined, it's not like stuff is getting added to us. It's actually things getting taken off of us that then allow us to have the full, capacity. Capacity or the capabilities that God has created us with. I think, is that where you're
that's exactly where I was going.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah. I got you, Thomas.
And this goes actually perfectly in line. This is a question I'm going to ask all the guests during this series. With growth and excellence comes sacrifice. There's a quote I took from John Maxwell.
Love John Maxwell.
Growth demands a temporary surrender of security. And he defines excellence as continuous growth.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good.
So with that in mind, with growth and excellence comes sacrifice. And what is something that you've had to give up in order to experience growth?
Comfortability, for sure.
Yeah.
I know, and when I say this, people don't really believe me, but before I really gave my life to Christ, I was very shy. Just in public and social settings, not shy. And it's I don't like public speaking, I wasn't good at it, and I say that to people now and they're like, what do you mean? You're just always bouncing off the walls, just screaming random stuff now. And it's just yeah, that's what Jesus does to you, man. But I had to really give up comfortability, but really sacrifice I had to sacrifice I had to sacrifice the feeling that I couldn't change.
Yeah.
And within that comes a whole bunch of different things. I had to sacrifice being comfortable, except I sacrificed just sitting back. I actually took the steps to be bold, to speak out, even though sometimes didn't go the way I planned, or I didn't say the things I wanted to, but I did take those steps, and I moved out of that comfortability. I had to sacrifice a lot of lifestyle things. I was living my life not necessarily in an ungodly way, but just God really put it on my heart last year, towards the end of the year, there's these things in your life that you don't need. He was refining me to the point it was easy things that were kind of scrape off, right? Just bad habits, bad things I was doing. Well, not necessarily. Some of them were bad, but some of them just not what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. So I was kind of just sacrificing what I was used to doing, and it's okay, God, how am I supposed to live my life now? And I feel that in itself was a sacrifice. I gave up my own control of what my life was supposed to be, and I was just I want to live the life that God wants me to live, so I want to be doing those things. Yeah. And it would convict me a lot, and sometimes I'd get in my head about it because I'd be oh, I need to do more and more and more, and it's dude, you literally, it's you just ran 5 miles. You're there's 6 miles ahead though. And it's I had to kind of realize look how far I've came from a lot of things that I've overcame. Yeah. But I had to just really sacrifice, I was okay with losing things, I'm trying to articulate this. I sacrificed the feeling of control in a sense of okay, I'm okay with losing this. Yeah. Whatever it may be, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship. Yeah. There was friendships that I've had that they were some of my best friends. And for a season, I had to kind of just take a step back. And thankfully, I'm still friends with them, and the friendships are starting to come back. But for a season, and this is really good too, for a season, I had to take a step back just because, you guys probably know, you can have friends that don't have the same lifestyle as you, but if you hang out with them a lot and you're around them a lot, then they can start to rub off on you and all these things. And especially towards the beginning of my walk with Christ, it's not necessarily the best thing for me as an individual. Yeah. I could be influenced very easily when it comes to things. So for me, I had to take a step back and be okay, I need to create this foundation and let it solidify first before I can go back. So now I can go back to those friends with a firm foundation, and I'm not the influenced, I'm the influencer.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah. Really good. So there's, I mean, I kind of just rambled there for a little bit.
You're good. No.
But yeah, I kind of just like sacrificed the way I was just like thinking about life. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everything was just kind of going downhill. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, well, how much worse can this really get? Right? So I sacrificed I was like, Lord, you have it. It's yours anyway. So just guide me along this way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I think the Bible talks about bad company corrupts good manners. Mm-hmm. So I think for new believers especially, it's so important for them to go and find a foundation before you go back to your old friends. Because your old friends are going to be doing things that are not of God until they come into a relationship with God. So exactly. I know, definitely know that.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make those friends like bad people, right? Those friends aren't bad people. Yeah. But it's just when you have a different lifestyle than them, it's just like you can make it something even more practical. It's like if they work in the morning and you work at night, and it's like, okay, like they want to go hang out at night because they're off work. It's like, well, my life isn't like that. Yeah. So it's like, I can't do that. I can't do that, right? But after a while, it's like your lifestyle either might change or you just may become so accustomed to your lifestyle that you can now hang around them without like compromising. Yeah. I think, you have to be able to, and this is a hard line because you shouldn't be like, okay, I'm good, and then go compromise, right? Right. You have to have a strong enough foundation not to be able to compromise your belief when you're around those old friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I think that's something, I honestly think that's way more practical than I think. I don't know. I don't know if you realize it, but I feel like all three of us, like I can say that you guys both said that you related, Tron said he related to it. I relate to that too, where I know I'm high. I've never really said it to other people, but like I am high. I've acknowledged it to myself that I am highly susceptible to my surroundings. Mm-hmm. And like, but at the same time, like the further, like we talked about roots, the further down my roots go with Christ, and the further I'm locked into that foundation, the less I'm shaken whenever I'm around those people. Yeah. Because they, like you said, they're not bad people. I love my friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like the goal is like to also show them who Jesus is and who right. It's not just to be around other believers. Yeah. Because that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It does, but...
it's like Jesus didn't only hang out around people who followed him, right?
Yeah. Based off, you were saying earlier, like you took that step out. What caused you to step out? What was that? What was that like?
I think what really caused me to I'm trying to think of the exact time. Do you mean like in what sort of way? Like when I was talking about being refined, like initially when I gave my life to Christ, or like more recently?
You talking about the way I was hearing it was something more recently whenever you were like more shy and yeah.
Gotcha. So I can give credit to Brandon here because I just started hanging out with Brandon a lot, and I was I think what it boiled down to was I just wasn't really confident in myself, like who I really was. And part of that was because I knew there was parts of me that I wanted to change. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want people to see that part.
Right.
But it took Brandon kind of not pushed me out of my shell, but he kind of got me out of there. Mm-hmm. Just being around him. I mean, you know him. Yeah. Highly sociable. He just wants to talk to people all the time. Extrovert. Very much an introvert. Mm-hmm. I love talking to people, but introvert at heart. And what really caused me to step out was people being like, I see this in you. Yeah. Even when I didn't see it in myself. And two, I don't know, just I've never really been much of speaking out before. A lot of this has to come with public speaking. That was the first kind of thing that came out. Public speaking, whether it was probably even start with announcements. Yeah. Or hosting a game at IC or whatever. And I was just given an opportunity. And I knew the people who gave me the opportunity believed in me and knew I would do a good job. So knowing that, I took the step, and obviously I knew God would give me the strength, and it was something God wanted me to go down. So I took the step of boldness to kind of just step out of my shell. And the first time I got up on stage and did announcements, let alone preach. The first time I preached, oh my goodness, that was not good. But I stepped out, right? Yeah, and what that did for me was like, in my mind, maybe I did fail, but inherently I didn't, because I did what God called me to do. Mm-hmm. And what happened for a reason. It was part of God's plan. Like, that didn't happen by mistake. It didn't happen by accident. Yeah. Like, everything that happened in that moment happened for a reason. And so if I could say to anyone listening, like, if you're scared to step out, take that step, and whatever happens is supposed to happen for a reason. Yeah. God's not going to be like, oh, well, like, I wanted this to happen, but like, you just like didn't say the right thing. So like, now we went to plan B. It's just like, no, you stepped out and you obeyed God's calling. And he's like, great. That's like, good job. Like you were obedient. Yeah. And that's all I'm calling you to do. So it really, that helped. Also, I stopped taking the spotlight off of me. It's like, yes, I'm up there speaking, but at the same time, like, it's not about me. Right. A lot of times it was like, I got like performance anxiety from like public speaking at like school because it was like for a grade. Mm-hmm. And so at that time, it is about me, right? It's how I speak. It's the words I'm saying, the content I'm speaking. But now I'm realizing, okay, it's not about me. In this context, it's like, what does God want to say? How can I best say that without messing it up too bad? And how can I relate it to the people speaking and be a little funny while doing that? And yeah, I just kind of stepped out in that way, was confident in it. And through many different trials and experiences and repetitions of doing it, stepping out just becomes second nature.
That's good. No, I was going to go further, but I feel like we're going to start wrapping it up. Okay. But I have these questions. I forgot to ask them last episode. Oh. But couple ones I want to wrap up with. If you have any final before we wrap up?
Nah, Sean? I hadn't looked at that. I was like, we only been talking for 3 minutes.
There's no way this has been 3 minutes. I was like, I swear I just talked for 3 minutes.
So with to get to excellence, like growth leads to excellence. And so when it comes to personal growth, what are some of the like top resources? If you can name any resources that you would recommend to people, like they can be either books, podcasts, anything. What would you recommend?
Resources just for you said growing in excellence.
Yeah.
You touched on him a little bit, John Maxwell. I've only read one of his books. I started reading it. Forget the exact title, but it's somewhat along the lines of developing the leader in You 2.0. Yep. That's it. That's a really good one. I got halfway through, stopped reading it, and now I'm picking it back up, but I'm starting over just so I can read through it fresh. So, Developing the Leader in You 2.0 by John Maxwell. What else is really good? I mean, the Bible is full of knowledge. If you want good for stuff for excellence, read the book of Proverbs. And look up just like a study on it, like a really in-depth study. What else for excellence? For me, it's a mixture of like knowing things and also like being productive. I've been really trying to learn how to be productive. Oh, I don't know this guy's name, but there's this YouTuber. His name is I think it's like Abdaal. I think his name.
Yeah, Abdaal. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. He's really good. He has a lot of good productivity things. How to I was just watching this video on like the best like sleep routine. Yeah. Because I think like overall like excellence shouldn't just be the thing you're doing. With us at like church or like at our job, it should just be a lifestyle. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And obviously in a healthy and balanced way. But I'm like, oh wait, how can I like use the best time? Like how can I get the best sleep? Like I don't want to go to sleep and then wake up like groggy. Like how do I wake up and feel ready to tackle the day? Yeah. So that's someone I think is really good. And another one I would say is, I'm trying to think of one more. I think another good podcast. I mean, you guys are an excellent source of content and just wisdom.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot.
You guys are amazing with everything that you do. So it's just, I listen to some stuff, I'm like, that's good. Write that one down. But I have to sit here and think for a little bit.
Yeah,
off the top of my mind, that's all.
That's typically like what I'm looking for. The thing that pops up first. Because that's the stuff that you actually like, or like, that's the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot more like I guess they're more interviews, but like podcast interviews about like people about like I just listened to Ollie's with Colin Samir. Yeah, that's a good one. And then just like I don't know, just hearing like different business people talk about like their businesses and how they do things is just really cool. So yeah, it's a whole bunch of mix of things, but for the majority, that's pretty much
awesome.
I had one question actually.
Hit me with it, John.
It's a really I think question it's gonna lead a lot of people to success in life.
Okay.
How can you help somebody else bring excellence to the next disciple, the next generation, the next person that you're gonna encounter?
Like, how can they carry it on?
Yeah, how can you lead them to excellence?
I think so. Someone is going to pick up something you do because of a couple reasons, not just because it's mostly never going to be because you just tell them to.
Yeah.
Because that's just I personally, that just doesn't work for me. So, it's going to come out of the way I act and live, and creating a special bond or just a genuine connection with that person, and being like, hey, this is how I live my life. And look at I think one thing that's really cool is the fruit that comes out of is striving for excellence, right? God calls us to be the best person we can, and within that, He's going to supply us with everything that we need. And if you do that with I try to do it with a loving heart, with wisdom, with knowledge, with care and kindness and patience and all these things. And I think when someone sees that and then they see I don't want to say the real you, but the authentic you, and it's the same person, they're like, whoa, that's because if you see someone doing it and then on the weekend they're fake, it's unattractive. You don't want to, it's that's just I don't want to do that. But when you see that and you're like, whoa, that's really cool. And he's the same exact person when he's not here, then that's just something they inherently want to become. And it's not you, it's your values in your heart, right? And I think what it comes down at the end of the day is where's your heart at?
Yeah.
That's at a lot of questions it boils down to is just where's your heart at?
Yeah.
Right? If you have a good heart, people are going to inherently be attracted and they're going to want to have a good heart. Yeah. I think that's what it just comes down to.
That's good.
I really like the parallels that are happening between these two episodes, from this one and the last episode, because you meant if your heart's in the right place, if your heart posture is right, then you're going to be going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And something that came in my mind as Michaela was speaking last episode was I like these quick quips that help me remember things. Is that if you're missing the heart, you're missing the mark.
Oh, that's good. If you're missing the heart, you're missing the mark. Yeah.
And it's just it's really to the listeners, where is your heart? What, a lot of people say, you want to know where your heart is, look at your bank account. And what are you spending the most of your money on? And because that is the resource that we all have.
Yeah, it's look at your bank account, look at your screen time.
Yeah, screen time.
Where's your heart at? And I think going to what kind of Sean asked, it's where is your heart at? It's yes, we want to lead people to excellence, but it's not about the number of people we lead to excellence. It's about the heart we have, and inherently it's just we just want people to have this. Yeah. And it's not because we want to be I had 5 people yesterday say they've given their life to Jesus and they're striving for excellence, and that's 5 numbers, and I'm great because it's 5 more people and that's what I did. It's just no, your heart posture is just the love of Jesus, and that's just the byproduct.
So good.
If you don't have the heart, you miss the mark. That's good. Oh my gosh, a little one hitter.
And then two final questions. Okay. And then we'll these are just the final wrapping up questions.
Gotcha.
First, how can people learn more about you or your podcast, Who Needs a Name?
So we have an Instagram, we have a YouTube, and we have a Spotify, all under Who Needs a Name. I believe the Instagram is at Who Needs a Name Pod. YouTube and Spotify is Who Needs a Name with PB&J. If you want to hear more about us, we post right now. Our schedule is every Friday. So we just dropped that episode on the 27th. So we're back on a normal content drop there. About me, I have an Instagram at JSB_34 if you want to learn more about me. That's pretty much all I have there. I'm trying to be a little more active on the Instagram. Try to, just help as many people as I can. Also, just like express myself. It'll be a little creative outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much more stuff out there about me. Yeah. I mean, if you looked up, I have a couple youth messages, and I see the message you can listen to if you really searched it up there. But besides that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just on the socials.
All right. And then final question: who would you like to hear on the podcast?
Ooh, who would I like to hear on the podcast? Specifically with this series, or just in general?
In general.
In general.
You can be in this series if you want. Okay. You can be anything.
Let me think here. I think someone that would be really good on this podcast, and I know you know, I mean, we all know him, but Thomas, you know him really well. Pastor Ed.
You're the second person to tell me that.
Really?
Yep.
Who said Pastor Ed? Michaela?
Yep.
No, Ed would be so good on this because I feel like he just has so much wisdom.
Yeah.
And just hearing him preach a couple times, he has so much wisdom and so much just, his heart is just amazing and he's just an awesome guy. So I feel like just hearing him talk on the podcast would be awesome.
Yeah, we love Pastor Ed.
Yeah.
We will have him on at some point.
Yes.
We already talked to him about it.
Oh.
Honestly, he's the one who came up with this idea.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
But guys, thank you for listening to this episode. This was definitely a longer one, so thank you for sticking around for the whole thing. Cause it was honestly a great conversation. So if you liked it, definitely go ahead, and if you haven't already rated us, give
5 stars.
5 stars. Follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do. Hit the like button. Everything 5 stars.
5 stars.
And yeah. Lost my train of thought. You guys got it. And yeah, if you if you liked it, if you did like this episode, let us know. We honestly really appreciate it whenever people message us or talk to us and tell us that like they really liked the last episode or like what works, what doesn't work. We were talking about before the episode. We were talking about critiques. Mm-hmm. We're always open to critiques.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, give us a follow, subscribe, rate, whatever platform you're on.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time. See you guys.
See ya.
See you guys.